Welcome to Headline Hub Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. The world held its breath as a high-stakes drama unfolded in the South China Sea. On September 5, 2025, the Philippines challenged China's blockade, a ring of steel meant to starve out Filipino Marines stationed on the BRP Sierra Madre. This rusting World War II ship had become a symbol of Philippine sovereignty. The mission was more than a resupply. It was a test of wills, a statement to the world. For months, Chinese Coast Guard and Maritime militia had blocked all attempts to bring food and water to the Marines. Water cannons, dangerous maneuvers, and relentless harassment had brought the situation to a breaking point. The world watched, wondering if this would ignite a larger conflict in one of the planet's most critical waterways. For the Philippines, it was about national pride and sovereign rights. For China, it was about projecting power and enforcing sweeping claims. The men on the Sierra Madre were caught in the middle, their survival dependent on this daring mission. The Philippine Navy and Coast Guard were outgunned and outnumbered, relying on courage and hope for international support. As the sun rose, Filipino supply crews knew their mission was perilous. They carried not just supplies but the hopes of a nation. The Second Thomas Shoal, where the Sierra Madre rests, is within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, affirmed by an international tribunal in 2016. Beijing saw the ship as an illegal occupation, a thorn to be removed. The narrative was classic David versus Goliath, played out with modern warships and international law. The world was about to witness an extraordinary act of defiance. The stakes could not have been higher. The outcome would echo far beyond these contested waters. Tension gripped the bridge of the BRP Cabra, a Philippine Coast Guard escort. Outside, the sea was calm, but the challenge ahead was clear. Dozens of Chinese vessels formed a multi-layered blockade. The mission, escort two small supply boats, UNCLOS 1 and 2, to the BRP Sierra Madre, felt like crossing an ocean of hostility. Chinese commanders had orders: prevent the resupply by any means short of firing the first shot. Their ships were larger, faster, and more numerous, practiced in blockade maneuvers. The Filipino boats were seen as provocateurs, challenging Beijing's order. Radio channels crackled with warnings, demanding the convoy turn back. For the Filipino crews, every Chinese ship was a potential threat. Memories of water cannons and near collisions were fresh. They sailed into danger armed with courage and conviction. The captain of the BRP Cabra knew the world was watching, and that lives depended on his decisions. Aboard the UNCLOS boats, civilian crews, fishermen and mariners felt like minnows among sharks. Their cargo rice, water, and letters from home, now the focal point of an international standoff. They held their course, small wooden boats pushing through waves, a fragile but resolute symbol of national will. The psychological pressure was immense, but retreat was not an option. The mission was clear: reach the Sierra Madre no matter the odds. The world watched as the convoy pressed forward. The two supply boats, UNCLOS 1 and 2, carried a lifeline to the Marines on the BRP Sierra Madre. This grounded, decaying ship is a permanent outpost and a symbol of Philippine resilience. Without regular supplies, the Marines' position would become untenable. The mission was vital: food, water, and repair materials to keep the outpost alive. Every nail and bag of cement was an act of defiance against China's strategy. Let the ship rot and sovereignty fade. Beijing hoped nature would do its work, but this mission was a direct counter. Among the cargo were personal items, letters, magazines, comforts from home, reminders that the Marines were not forgotten. The crews understood they were delivering hope, not just supplies. The Sierra Madre's presence is a constant assertion of sovereignty. The Marines endure isolation and hardship, frontline defenders of their nation. The success of this mission was a matter of survival and morale. The human element was profound. Connection to home mattered as much as food and water. The supply boats braved the blockade, determined to reach their comrades. This was more than logistics. It was a statement of national resolve. The world watched as hope sailed through hostile waters. As the convoy neared the shoal, China's blockade tightened. A dozen large Coast Guard vessels, backed by maritime militia disguised as fishing boats, formed an intimidating wall. These gray zone tactics blurred the line between civilian and military, asserting control without open war. Loud warnings blared, ordering the Filipinos to leave. The Chinese ships blocked, shouldered, and isolated the supply boats, while militia swarmed to confuse and corral them. For the civilian crews, it was terrifying. Fragile wooden boats surrounded by hostile steel. China's strategy: relentless pressure, plausible deniability, and no shots fired. The blockade was a grinding campaign to force abandonment of the shoal. The world saw a textbook example of gray zone warfare. The Filipino crews pressed on, refusing to yield. Facing overwhelming odds, the Philippine convoy executed a brilliant maneuver. The BRP Cobra accelerated, acting as a decoy and drawing Chinese ships away. The Chinese took the bait, diverting their main force. Meanwhile, BRP Sindangan created a narrow channel, screening the supply boats. UNIZA May 1 broke away, dashing for a shallow, less guarded channel. The Chinese militia, caught off guard, scrambled to react. The supply boat, with its shallow draft and skilled crew, slipped past the blockade. For a few critical minutes, a window opened. UNIZA May 1 reached the Sierra Madre, mission accomplished. The Marines cheered as hope arrived. The second supply boat and escorts withdrew, having breached the blockade. Outnumbered, the Filipinos had outsmarted a superpower. The wall of steel was breached by cunning, not force. The world was watching. International journalists embedded with the convoy ensured China's actions were broadcast globally. The standoff became a media event, a battle for narrative as much as territory. Overhead, a U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon circled, its sensors recording every move, signaling American support. The presence of the U.S. raised the stakes for China. Global reaction was swift. Allies commended the Philippine crews and reaffirmed support for international law. The mission became a diplomatic victory for Manila. The South China Sea is vital for global trade. Its stability matters to all. For Southeast Asia, the mission was an inspiration, proof that smaller states could resist pressure. The Philippine example sparked conversations across the region about defending sovereign rights. Clever strategy, international support, and resolve had made a difference. The events of September 5th resonated far beyond the shoal. The world took note. The balance of power was not set in stone. The breach of the blockade was more than tactical. It affirmed international law. The 2016 Hague ruling invalidated China's sweeping claims and affirmed the Philippines' rights at Second Thomas Shoal. By reaching the shoal, the Philippines enforced the arbitral award, not just in words, but in action. China rejected the ruling, preferring bilateral talks where it holds the advantage. The Philippine strategy: multilateralize the issue, make it a global principle. This mission showed the ruling had teeth. Actions, not just words, matter. It was a clash of worldviews, law versus power. The mission proved that right can sometimes overcome might. International law became a practical tool for smaller nations. The rules-based order gained a new champion on the water. In Beijing, the response was swift and controlled. Official statements condemned the Philippines, claiming professionalism and restraint. State media portrayed China as the victim of a provocation backed by the U.S. Behind the scenes, frustration simmered. China's blockade had been breached. Analysts dissected the failure, exposed by Filipino tactics and local knowledge. China is unlikely to escalate militarily, but will adapt. Expect more ships, new tactics, and relentless pressure. The long-term goal remains: remove the Sierra Madre, consolidate control. This was a lost battle, not the end of the contest. The struggle for the South China Sea continues. The September 5th mission sent ripples across the globe. For the Philippines, it was a boost in morale and validation of a bolder strategy. The U.S. and allies saw proof that support and deterrence work. ASEAN may find new resolve inspired by Manila's success. Flexible coalitions could emerge to uphold international law. The mission was a story of courage, strategy, and the enduring power of law. The BRP Sierra Madre remains, a stubborn sentinel in a 21st century struggle. For one shining moment, the world saw a small nation outsmart a giant.